Luis Minero from the International Academy of Consciousness, or IAC, spoke to the South Bay chapter of the International Association of Near-Death Studies recently. The IAC is a nonprofit organization committed to the investigation of consciousness and its capacity to manifest outside of the body in a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience. I had some questions for Luis, and he graciously consented to this interview in a hotel lobby. I had only a directional mic on my camera, and I apologize for the ambient sounds, which may be somewhat distracting at times. Luis, what is the relationship between consciousness and the brain?
Consciousness in the brain, something that we see, when we have out-of-body experience is that we realize that the consciousness or the ability to be aware, to be conscious, is something that is separate from the brain. So it seems more like the brain is like the receiver of consciousness. So we have mental faculties like awareness, like will and everything, even as we are outside the body. And when we come into the body, those faculties become translated by the brain into actions for the physical body. But they seem to be two different things. And this is why, in out-of-body experiences, we can be outside the body, and we have all of our memories, all of our will, all of our awareness, all of our consciousness, even though the brain is actually in bed, sleeping and keeping just the automatic functions of the body.
Why is it easier for some people to have an OBE, an out-of-body experience, than others?
Yeah, this actually seems to be part of the predispositions of people. Just like there are certain individuals for whom, for example, athletics seems to be easier, or music seems to be easier, or science seems to be easier. Then it seems that by the same token, for certain people, it becomes easier to have out-of-body experiences. So they already have this predisposition. And usually these are individuals, that when they are young, they manifest some type of paranormal phenomena. So, for example, sometimes they are a little bit more intuitive, or they're able to see, non-physical individuals or non-physical consciousnesses while they are physical. Like in the case of kids, that sometimes they're able to see the grandparent that already passed away, but they are physical inside the body. And then these individuals seem to have these more psychic abilities, developed.
Mm-hmm. Some scientists have discovered that people who have dissociative identity disorder have an easier time having an out-of-body experience or even a near-death experience because repeated trauma has created a path of escape from the body and the situation. Can you identify with this?
Yeah, I would say that certainly can produce an easier time, or can make it a little bit easier for certain individuals to have out-of-body experiences. But of course, that's because due to the pathology that they have, because of those specific traumas, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only way that people can have out-of-body experiences, and it doesn't mean that there isn't a healthy way of having out-of-body experiences. But yes, sometimes those traumas, it seems that they make it easier for certain individuals to have OBEs.
The near-death experience is a transcendent experience that changes lives. Is the out-of-body experience in this same category of transcendence?
Yes, I would say that's exactly the case. Because when you leave the body, you also have this sensation of, first of all, in the practice of understanding that you are more than your physical body. Also, you realize that as an essence that goes beyond the physical body, you are in the physical body or in the physical reality at this moment to do certain things, to accomplish certain things. Also, many times in the out-of-body experiences, you're able as well to meet these individuals like your spirit guides. You're able to meet relatives that already passed away, and this entire experience gives a perspective to the person that goes beyond the physical reality, and thus it becomes much more transcendental. So individuals who have out-of-body experiences also many times present the same benefits or the same, the same improvement in their personality that people who have near-death experience as well manifest.
In a recent talk, you said that in an out-of-body experience, you can leave the earth and go to other dimensions. What is the most unusual place you've heard about that anyone has been?
There are really so many unusual places when you are outside the body that you can see, because what happens is that certain dimensions, they look a little bit like the physical dimension, in the sense that you see people, you see constructions, you see buildings, you see roads. But there are, for example, dimensions in which everything is up in the air and there aren't any roads or equipment for transportation. And then of course, it looks completely different. There are places even where there aren't the equivalent of structures or buildings, but those individuals just simply don't need those types of things. And these, I'm talking about dimensions that are not physical, so that go beyond the physical reality. Because of course, in an out-of-body experience, you can go very far in terms of distance and go to, let's say, another planet or another galaxy, but this is still the physical reality. Or you can have, as I was mentioning, experiences where you go to other dimensions that now don't have an equivalence to the physical reality.
Mm-hmm. Is one of the limitations that we have a three-dimensional mind that operates in a three-dimensional world, where we would find talking about other dimensions impossible?
Yeah, to a certain extent, that's part of it, meaning we have an out-of-body experience and we realize more clearly when we are outside the body that, the conditionings that we have from the physical reality, the three-dimensional mind, the idea that we have a physical body, that we have arms, that we have legs, all of these things, of course, make an effect on us as we are outside the body. Even, for example, something here to add is when we have an out-of-body experience, we realize that we have this other body that traditionally has been called the astral body, that looks exactly like our physical body. Has arms, has legs, has our head, has our torso, everything. But that appearance that we are showing as we are outside the body, the fact that we look exactly like our physical body, it really comes from our concept of self-image, of how we think we look. And this is an evidence, again, of our conditioning to the physical reality. And we find ourselves also outside the body wanting to use the astral body the way we use the physical body. So sometimes we are trying to shuffle the legs in order to advance, almost like walking, something that outside the body, of course, it doesn't make any sense. Also, sometimes outside the body, we find ourselves drawn to thinking in the language that we are used here. So we try to think in English or in Portuguese or in whichever language we know. And this is, again, the conditioning from the physical reality. Because in other out-of-body experiences, we can be much more aware, and then the limitation of the language drops. And then we are able to communicate a little bit more without symbols and in a little bit more of a pure telepathic way of sorts.
Are you saying that we can imagine our lives and our world into existence?
No, not necessarily. No. When you are outside the body, the realities that you observe outside the body, they are to a certain extent independent of you. So what I mean to say is, if you go once and you see it, you see the reality. Somebody else can go outside the body and see that same reality, and they can confirm your same experiences, showing you that reality that you had seen was independent of you. And then in that sense, it is similar to the physical reality where, the things that we are interacting with are independent of us to a certain extent.
Yeah. You had your first out-of-body experience at age 12. After you had that experience, did you feel very different from others your age?
No, I didn't. When I had that first experience, I remember it very well. I know I was very clear and very lucid outside the body. But when I came back, even because I was so young, I was involved in a lot of other things, extracurricular activities, playing with my classmates and everything. And also I had, after that one, experiences that were maybe once a year, so they weren't that frequent. Sometimes after I would have them, I would realize this is a great experience. I wish I could have it more often, but at that time I didn't have techniques or, I wasn't able to see the potential and, all the benefits of where that could lead me. So for me, it was maybe some different type of dream that I was having, and I was so young that I wasn't able to connect ideas and to see that the potential of things. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I was much older that I realized, okay, there are a lot of different possibilities for research and for study during this capacity.
Do you feel that in some way having an out-of-body experience is leaving the box of consensus reality behind?
Yes, yes. Sometimes we say that, leaving the body is truly thinking outside the box. Because while we are inside the body, we are still using the brain. We still have all of the conditionings of the physical life. And when we are outside the body, of course, there are those tendencies from all of those memories and all of those references. But now we have a little bit more freedom to, observe different ways of, different paradigms, different ideas, and things that go beyond the physical reality.
Does this mean that the norms of everyday life no longer have the same meaning?
They no longer have the same meaning. That's right. There are some dimensions that they are a little bit similar to the physical reality. So they have similarities, and some of the rules that we have here in the physical reality still apply. Like, for example, things like relationships and things like that. But there are other dimensions where all of those rules start to disappear, and then things have a completely different meaning.
Does this mean that adjusting to life can be more difficult as a result of having an out-of-body experience?
I guess it's possible that if somebody has a lot of out-of-body experiences, they might become alienated from physical life. Sure, but more often than not, this doesn't happen. The out-of-body experiences, when you have them, they usually give you information that enriches your physical life. And this is even why you see that individuals, when they come back from near-death experiences or from out-of-body experiences, you see them as individuals that are more grounded, that are more willing to put energy and effort into physical realizations and into physical projects, and they want to accomplish things in this physical life.
When you have an out-of-body experience or a near-death experience, you often meet blood relatives who have died before. Why is it that we are stuck meeting our dead blood relatives in the spirit world?
Well, it's true. When you have a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience, you can meet these individuals that have already passed away. But you don't only meet them. You certainly meet other individuals that were not necessarily relatives of ours from this physical life. So this shows that we are not necessarily stuck only with those individuals. Yeah, so we can meet relatives of ours, but also sometimes we meet individuals that were not part of our collection of relatives, from this physical life.
You said that sometimes we meet something that could be called a spirit guide. Could this spirit guide be a larger, more conscious version of ourselves, or is it really separate?
From all the evidence that we have, that we see, we realize that it's a different individual, a separate individual. Somebody that has had different experiences than us, probably more experiences than us, and this is what makes them be more wise, and therefore this person can, give us advice, or we can consult things with them, etc., etc. But for all the evidence that we have, it seems to be a separate individual from us.
Right. People who have out-of-body experiences report a silver cord, whereas you rarely find the report of a silver cord in a person who has had a near-death experience. Similarly, people who have near-death experiences tend to report an encounter with a being they call Source or God, and yet perhaps this is not so common in an out-of-body experience. Could you comment on that?
Yeah. There are certainly a few differences between the out-of-body experiences and the near-death experience. In the near-death experience, because the moment is more critical and the person is so near death, sometimes a lot of things tend to converge in that one single experience. Even because of that, sometimes the person doesn't realize that they have a silver cord, so they rarely look for it. Now, in the out-of-body experience, there are a lot of reports of people who have had hundreds of out-of-body experiences and they don't see the silver cord. But the moment that they think about looking for the silver cord, they're able to find it, they're able to grab it, actually something that also is possible outside the body. So the fact that people that have near-death experiences don't see it, it seems to be more related to us really not paying attention to it or not looking for it. It's not immediately obvious. And now the other idea with regards to the source of finding the source of things. Again, in the near-death experience, because everything is more critical, it seems that the person is transported to a place or to a dimension where there are more spirit guides, where there is this energy of more support and something much bigger than ourselves. And it is more common for those individuals who are having an NDE to observe or to experience that. In the out-of-body experience, since we are not necessarily limited to one experience, but this can be, 5, 20, 50, people also get to that place, but it doesn't happen as the incidence or the percentage is not as common as in the near-death experience. So in the out-of-body experience, we can go visit a lot of other places, and we can also visit these other dimensions where, there is this energy or this feeling of support or, what people call the source. But it's not as common as with the NDEs.
I see. If the silver cord offers a connection to the body, can we say that it is truly an out-of-body experience?
Well, it is an out-of-body in the sense that we are outside the physical body, but certainly we are connected to the physical body by the silver cord, yeah.
What happens if the silver cord breaks?
In essence, this is what happens when people pass away. When people pass away, the physical body, first of all, seems to stop working by whichever reason, maybe by an accident, a heart attack, or old age, etc., etc. So the physical body stops working, but the silver cord seems to take some time before it detaches from the physical body. Sometimes this can be a half an hour or an hour, and this is the reason why people can have near-death experiences, because if even though the physical body stopped, the doctors come in and they're able to resuscitate the physical body and put the machine to work, then the person has the opportunity to return to its physical body and had a near-death experience. But if, the silver cord already detached because a couple of hours went by or a day went by, then what happens, of course, is that no matter how much we're trying to resuscitate the machine, even though we might put a lot of voltage in the machine, now it's more energized, the consciousness, the spirit just simply doesn't return and doesn't come back.
Is it possible for a person having an out-of-body experience to intentionally break the silver cord?
For all the evidence that we have, this is not possible. The person, once it is outside the body, it'll always come back to the physical body, even if they don't want to. And probably this is the most cases that we know of sometimes people being outside the body and them realizing, look, this is a very good state. I don't have to eat, I don't have to sleep, I don't have to work. I feel so comfortable and so well here, so welcomed, that sometimes the conclusion of the person is the opposite. I am staying here. I don't want to go back to the physical reality. But what we observe is that is not possible. After some time, the body and the silver cord basically call the person back into its physical body. So even when we don't want to return, we return.
You said that oftentimes we choose our parents and life situations in order to learn from the life that we're going to experience. If we have the wisdom to know what situations will promote growth, then isn't the growth we want already present?
Yeah, really first of all, not everybody has the opportunity to choose that, but this varies depending on the level of awareness that the person has. But at the same time, this looks a little bit like when somebody is starting college and they already have an idea of what they want to do with their life and what is their career going to be, and they can already plan it and design it. I'm going to go to this school and I want to study these subjects and I want to do this and hopefully become involved with this firm and work also with this firm. But even though they already have all that plan, they still have to go through the motions to really learn it. Because one thing is the more theoretical initial plan, and another thing is once the person really has gone through those experiences and already knows, for example, how to work at that. So it's more or less along the same lines. The person can have a preview or a vision of how they want things to go, but they still have to go through the motions to really learn it.
Mm-hmm. You said that we are all from different dimensions. What is unique about this dimension we are living in now?
The uniqueness, I guess, of the physical reality is that everybody is physical. So the physical reality allows us to learn with people who have different levels of ethics, different examples, different ideas. So everybody is at the same level. Everybody is physical. We can have this level of proximity in the physical reality, and again, because of that, we can learn with different examples from people from different dimensions. When we are outside the body, people are almost like stratified in different types of settings and in different types of dimensions. So sometimes there isn't that level of proximity that we have here.
In a near-death experience, people often report seeing and communicating with someone they call Jesus. Even atheists do this. Yet this never happens to people living in obscure tribes, let's say in New Guinea. So how real are these divine beings if they are cultural archetypes?
Yes, and that's probably the best expression. They are cultural archetypes in the sense that, the people that live in New Guinea or people who live, in South America, they describe their own religious figures. Sometimes the person is actually seeing a light that is talking to them and that is very welcoming. And then, of course, again, the idea of conditioning, we have the tendency to interpret that light and to try to, give it, the name of somebody that we know from our own education that is usually related to our religion or to our conditionings, to the education that we came across in that life. And that basically accounts for that difference. So what it seems to us is that these individuals that are more benign, that are more positive, that want to help us, they certainly exist, but they don't seem to be associated to any one of the physical, schools of thought that we have. And that is actually something that us physical beings are trying to associate them with the education that we have had.
There is a study going on right now that is sponsored by doctors in which they are trying to verify veridical experience. In other words, sight or perception that may occur for a person who's having a near-death experience. So they're placing codes and symbols on top of cabinets in emergency rooms. Do you see a difficulty with this? Is there a difference in perception for people who have out-of-body experience? Can we equate the perception in an out-of-body experience with the perception we have with our eyes?
It's actually a little bit different, but I don't see a problem with that. What I see is that when people are having an out-of-body experience and a near-death experience, they seem to be able to perceive well the physical reality. So these types of experiments actually are encouraged. And this is also, part of what brings these studies to light is because there are many accounts of people who have near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences in hospital settings, and they, sometimes when they disconnect from their body, they find themselves being, flying or being displaced to another wing of the hospital where they're able to observe something happening over there, even sometimes read the name tag of the nurse that is on the other wing of the hospital, and then they come back to their physical body and they're able to tell about this afterwards. And of course this can be confirmed because that person actually exists, and it can be said that person was doing A, B, and C at that specific moment. And of course, accounts like this is what give rise, to these types of experiments. So on our perspective, the more of this that can be done, the better, certainly.
Why do people wear clothes in an out-of-body experience or even a near-death experience if clothes are not necessary there because the body they're in can't feel heat or cold? So why do people wear clothes?
Yes, you're absolutely right. There is no need to wear clothes. The reason why people wear clothes is, again, conditioning. It's because we think that we should be clothed, when we are out of our bedroom, out of our house. So we wear that. Sometimes an example that I always give is that by the same token, when you find people outside the body that have always or for a long time have worn glasses, most of the times they do have glasses. And this is not because they need a lens to help them correct the vision outside the body, but it's just because their self-image is with glasses. They're used to seeing themselves in the mirror and they're used to seeing this appearance, and then outside the body they have glasses. Again, completely unnecessary, but this gives evidence to the fact that, the self-image, the conditionings from the physical life, we still carry them when we are outside the body.
How old is the soul? How old is our consciousness?
We don't know. We don't know how old it is, even because time takes on a very different meaning outside the body. So it's very difficult to say. What I can tell you is that with the studies on retrocognitions, on recollections of past lives, we realize that pretty much everybody that we see have already had dozens of lives, hundreds of lives before. and we can remember these things easier outside the body.
Oftentimes a person who has a near-death experience or even an out-of-body experience can report that they have a purpose in life. But when they return to this world, they can't remember it, or they're sent back because they're told their work is not yet done. So this is perplexing to me that they realize they have a purpose, but they can't remember it.
Right. And part of the reason is because it seems that part of accomplishing your objective in this life is you realizing what the objective is. So to a certain extent, there is a lesson in trying to figure out what our objective in this life is. So the main objective is not just simply to follow a set of orders or of plan, but part of the objective is for us to figure out what is the best thing to do, what would be the most correct thing to do, and to a certain extent to take responsibility for those decisions and to learn with those decisions. So that is a big part of it.
Luis, what do you think is the most important lesson that we can learn from the out-of-body experience?
One of the most important things, and not dissimilar from the near-death experience, is the fact that we are all very much connected. And the more we can help other people to be in a better condition, the more we all, profit from that, including ourselves. So something that happens a lot with the near-death experiences and also with the out-of-body experiences is the person starts to understand a lot the value of assistance, of helping others. So one of the very big things that we would encourage people to do is to volunteer their time in whichever cause that they think that is the best, whether it's for women's group or for animal shelters or for people who have different illnesses, etc., but to help to volunteer and to help to improve, the condition of the planet, the society.
Yeah. Luis, you're very articulate in your talks, and you're clearly very passionate about your work, and so I'm wondering, how has your work changed your life?
I think that because I started to have, out-of-body experiences since I was young, probably the issue is another one, that I cannot imagine my life without having these out-of-body experiences. So in my specific case, I started to become a volunteer of this institution when I was 22, when I was 23, I believe. And I have always found it very natural, to volunteer my time and to try to teach, to give information to people so that they can develop their own experiences. And to me, this sounds very, very normal, very natural. I know that there are friends of mine, even relatives of mine, that many times they have wondered, look, how can you volunteer so much time and not get paid? And I say, look, to me, it comes very, very natural. So I know, even though this is not the most common thing in society, to me it's, one of the things that probably differentiates me more, from the average, human being. Mm-hmm. But again, I would encourage anybody to volunteer, so that we can improve a little bit more, the condition of human life.
Luis, thank you so much for sharing your passion with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.